Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to kind of shift gears a little bit today.
Always up for a good mental workout.
All right, well, today we are diving into why the rich think differently, reprogramming your mind for abundance.
Catchy title.
Right, I thought so too. So we're going to kind of ditch the whole get rich quick thing today.
Yeah, none of that.
Exactly, and really get into how the wealthy actually think and how they approach building wealth. Sound good?
Sounds fascinating.
Awesome. So right off the bat, this book jumps into this idea of like two completely different mindsets, right?
Okay.
You've got the scarcity mindset, where it's all about what you don't have, what you're lacking.
Right.
And then you've got the abundance mindset,
Right.
where you see the world as full of possibilities and opportunities. Like, it's a totally different way of looking at things.
I see, yeah. And the book argues that the wealthy, they tend to have that abundance mindset.
Yeah. And it's not just some fluffy, feel-good concept. It actually affects how they approach problem-solving and decision-making.
How so?
Well, the book uses this really cool analogy of a saturated market to kind of illustrate this. So imagine a marketplace that's packed with vendors, right? Lots of competition.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Someone with a scarcity mindset, they might look at that and be like, nope, too crowded, no room for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
But someone with an abundance mindset would look at that same market and think,
Huge demand. Got to figure out how to tap into that.
exactly. It's like instead of seeing a closed door, they're looking for the open window.
Interesting. So it's about seeing potential where others might see limitations.
Exactly. And this goes way beyond just business, you know.
Okay.
Think about times you felt stuck or limited in your own life.
Yeah.
Could it be that a scarcity mindset was holding you back? Maybe you talked yourself out of going for that promotion or starting that project you've always dreamed of.
Because you focused on what you lacked instead of the possibilities.
Yeah. Right. So what if like shifting to an abundance mindset was like putting on a new pair of glasses? Suddenly you see the world differently, full of potential.
Makes you wonder how much we limit ourselves just by our way of thinking.
Seriously. All right, so the next thing the book digs into is how this abundance mindset plays out in the real world, especially when it comes to making money.
Okay, getting to the practical stuff.
Right, and they make this really interesting distinction between like the typical trading time for money thing.
Which, let's be honest, most of us do.
Yeah, you know, the whole 9 to 5 grind, watching the clock, counting down the minutes.
Been there.
But the book says the wealthy, they focus on building systems that generate value, even when they're not actively working.
Okay, that's intriguing. So not just working harder, but working smarter.
Exactly. So things like starting a business, investing in real estate, creating intellectual property.
Things that have the potential to generate income passively.
Right. And that's a total game changer. It's not just about earning a higher hourly wage. It's about creating assets that work for you.
So it's like building wealth while you sleep.
Pretty much. So let me ask you this, and anyone listening too, what's one thing you're really good at that you could potentially turn into like a value generating system?
Oh, wow. Put me on the spot.
Right. Like, could you write an ebook, create an online course, maybe find ways to automate parts of your current job to free up time for other pursuits?
I like where you're going with this.
Because instead of asking, how much can I earn per hour? You're asking, how can I build something that generates value beyond my own time and effort?
That is a powerful shift in perspective.
Mm.
All right, I'm ready for what else they have to say.
Okay, well, the book then tackles this whole idea of risk, and this is where things get kind of interesting.
Oh.
Because
the stereotype that wealthy people are like big risk takers, right?
Yeah.
Daredevils.
yeah, I've heard that.
But the book argues that they actually see risk differently.
Right.
It's not about being reckless. It's more about calculated risk-taking.
Okay.
So while many people might think starting a business is super risky,
Someone with this wealth-oriented mindset, they might see staying stuck in a job with limited growth potential as the bigger risk.
I see. It's all about perspective.
Right. So it's about looking at both the potential downsides and the potential upsides of any decision.
And sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all.
Exactly. Sometimes staying in your comfort zone can be the riskiest move of all.
So what's a risk that our listeners might be avoiding that could actually be a hidden opportunity?
Great question. Maybe it's finally launching that blog, going freelance, having that tough conversation you've been putting off.
I like it. Calculated risks for growth.
All right, now let's talk about the power of networks.
Yes. Your network is your net worth.
We've all heard that one. But this book goes beyond just networking for jobs.
In what way?
It's about building something much more powerful than just a list of contacts.
I'm listening.
They talk about building these vibrant ecosystems of value.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
It's not just who you know, but who they know, and how all those connections can lead to unexpected opportunities.
So it's not about collecting names, it's about cultivating relationships that actually create value.
Exactly. It's like this interconnected web, and the wealthy, they're masters at weaving that web.
Makes sense.
And they're not afraid to share their connections because they know that creating value for others actually benefits the entire network.
So it's about fostering a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Exactly. So instead of hoarding your contacts, think about how you can connect people in your network in a way that creates value for them. A very different approach to networking.
Now, the next thing the book emphasizes is the importance of lifelong learning.
Which, seems pretty relevant to our listeners here.
Right. I mean, you guys are already engaged in this deep dive, so you clearly get it.
Really?
But the book challenges this idea that education stops when you finish school.
Because it shouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The truly successful, they see learning as an ongoing investment, like the ultimate ROI. The more you learn, the more you grow, the more opportunities open up.
And that growth, it plays a huge role in your success, especially when it comes to finances.
So what's one skill or area of knowledge that would have a high ROI for our listeners right now?
Ooh, good question. What could you learn that would really boost your earning potential or open up new, exciting opportunities?
Something to think about for sure.
It's all about investing in yourself,
Yeah.
right? Which actually leads perfectly into the next big idea from the book, this whole concept of playing the long game.
Having the patience to resist those quick wins and really focus on building something sustainable.
Exactly. And it reminds me of this whole thing about compound interest. Most people think about it with money, but this book is saying it applies to so much more than just finances.
Oh yeah, for sure. It works with knowledge, relationships, even the opportunities that come your way.
Right. Consistent effort over time, it leads to exponential growth.
It's not about chasing the latest trends or trying to get rich quick. It's about building a solid foundation.
Playing the long game, making those consistent investments in yourself and your future.
Even when you don't see those results right away.
And that brings up a good question for our listeners. What's one long-term goal you're working towards? And what's one small step, even a tiny one, that you can take today to get a little bit closer?
Love that. Small steps, big results.
Okay, now get ready for this next concept because it really blew my mind. The book says that people who build wealth, they actually seek out problems.
Wait, what? Really? That sounds kind of backwards.
I know, right? But when you think about it, it's actually brilliant.
Okay, explain to me.
So every problem, right, it represents some kind of unmet need. And figuring out how to solve that need, well, that's where value creation comes in, which leads to wealth.
I see. So it's like those pain points everyone's always talking about.
Exactly. Think about it. Every successful business, every big innovation, it started because someone saw a problem and decided to solve it.
And the bigger the problem, the bigger the potential solution.
Right. Totally. So it's all about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing problems as these big roadblocks, you start to see them as opportunities.
Opportunities for innovation and growth.
Exactly. So I want everyone listening to think about this for a minute. What's a problem in your world that could actually be a hidden opportunity? Maybe there's something at work that's driving you crazy, or something in your community that you wish was different.
Maybe you could be the one to come up with the solution.
This whole idea, it just completely changes how we approach challenges, doesn't it?
For sure. It's like seeing the potential in every obstacle.
Okay, now this next point from the book, it's about how wealthy people view money itself. And this is really crucial.
Okay, I'm curious because for a lot of people, money is the goal.
Right. But this book is saying if you want to build lasting wealth, you got to see it differently.
So it's not about having a huge bank account.
It's more about seeing money as a tool to achieve something greater.
Like a means to an end, not the end itself.
Exactly. So it's not about hoarding wealth or obsessing over your net worth. It's about using money to create value, to make an impact, to open up new possibilities.
So how could our listeners start to shift their thinking around money?
Well, I think it starts with asking yourself a really important question. If money were just a tool, what would I build with it?
Wow, that's deep.
Right. What kind of impact would you make on the world? What kind of legacy would you create?
It's all about aligning your financial goals with your values and your purpose.
And when you start to see money that way, the possibilities become limitless.
Like that whole abundance mindset thing coming full circle.
And we're back, wrapping things up with why the rich think differently. We've talked about the mindset. Now let's get into some practical steps.
Right, because what good is all this knowledge if you don't actually do anything with it?
Exactly. So the book starts with this really simple but powerful idea, gratitude.
Okay, gratitude. Heard of that one.
Right. But it's about more than just feeling good. It's about shifting your whole perspective.
From scarcity to abundance.
Yeah. Instead of focusing on what you don't have,
Right.
you focus on what you do have.
Excited.
And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You're training your brain to see the glass half full.
So how can our listeners actually do that?
Well, it can be as simple as taking a few minutes every morning to write down a couple things you're grateful for, or, just telling someone you appreciate them.
Small things, but they make a difference.
All right, next up, remember that whole problems as opportunities thing.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So this is where we put it into practice.
Because remember, every problem is basically an unmet need.
Right. And when you can meet that need, you create value.
Which is the foundation of wealth.
So instead of getting bogged down by problems, you got to ask yourself, what's the opportunity here?
How can I turn this problem into a solution?
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be some huge world-changing thing.
Could be something small, right?
Totally. Maybe there's something at work that's super inefficient and you figure out a better way to do it.
Makes everyone's lives easier, and you look like a rock star.
Now, speaking of efficiency, the book also talks about building systems instead of constantly trading your time for money.
Leverage. Get your time working for you, even when you're not working.
Right. Imagine if you could build something that generates income while you sleep.
Passive income. The dream.
So how can our listeners start, thinking in terms of systems?
Well, it could be something like automating a task at work.
Okay.
Or creating a product you can sell online.
Interesting.
The key is to take a skill or strength you already have and figure out how to scale it.
So it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, this next point is all about the company you keep.
Okay, the people you surround yourself with.
Because they have a huge impact on your mindset and your success.
So choose wisely.
Seriously, surround yourself with people who are positive, ambitious, supportive.
Like a mastermind group where everyone's pushing each other to grow.
Exactly. Now, the book also emphasizes long-term thinking.
Patience, right? Not getting caught up in those instant gratification traps.
Yeah. It's about delaying gratification and focusing on the big picture.
Building something that will last and create value over time.
So think about the long-term impact of your choices, whether it's investing, starting a business, even just forming good habits.
It all adds up.
And finally, remember what we talked about earlier about how wealthy people view money?
It's a tool, not the goal.
Right. So instead of obsessing over your bank account, ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish with this money?
How can you use it to make a difference, leave a legacy?
And that's where real abundance comes in. It's not about the amount of money. It's about what you do with it.
It's about living a life of meaning and purpose.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into why the rich think differently.
We covered a lot of ground today.
From mindset shifts to practical strategies, there's a lot to unpack here.
But remember, this is just the beginning.
It's up to you to take these ideas and run with them.
So what's going to be your next step? What resonated with you the most? And what action are you going to take?
Choose one thing, even something small, and commit to it.
And share your progress with us. Let us know what you're working on, what challenges you're facing, what breakthroughs you're having.
We love hearing from you guys.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about taking action and creating the life you want.
So keep learning, keep growing, keep pushing beyond your comfort zone.
And until next time, keep diving deep.